Across the Colorado, another society had arisen under a different flag. A vast army of slaves forged from the conquest of 86 tribes, Caesar's Legion. 4 years have passed since the Republic held the dam, just barely, against the Legion's onslaught. The Legion did not retreat. Across the river, it gathers strength. Campfires burn, training drums beat.
Of all the major factions vying for control of the Mojave Fallout New Vegas, Caesar's Legion stands out as the only one constructed atop a cult of personality. By contrast, Mr. House is a calculating technocrat who relies upon his army of robots and paid mercenaries to do his bidding. Though he is competent and commands significant resources, he inspires no personal loyalty. In fact, his former subordinate, Benny, double-crosses him in order to usurp power, leading to the courier's involvement in the story.
Time to cash out.
Will you get it over with?
Maybe cons kill people without looking them in the face. But I ain't a fink. Dig? You've made your last delivery, kid. Sorry you got twisted up in this scene.
Meanwhile, the New California Republic is a democratic faction striving to restore order and civilization to the post-apocalyptic wasteland. However, its efforts are often stifled by a crippling bureaucracy. The NCR's bureaucratic structure is weighed down by red tape, slow decision-making processes, and infighting between various faction officials. This results in delayed responses to crises, such as the growing threat of Caesar's Legion, as well as an inability to effectively manage its vast territory. The need for political consensus, combined with an overextension of resources, leaves the NCR struggling to address the immediate threats, undermining its ability to act decisively in the Mojave and solidifying the perception of it as a slow, inefficient institution. No single leader exercises control over the NCR to the degree that Caesar does over the Legion. The NCR is led by bureaucrats and replaceable politicians. NCR generals and presidents are merely cogs in a machine. If they were removed, they could be replaced, and the NCR would continue functioning in the same manner.
Could be better, I'll say that much. We set up here with our sights set on annexing New Vegas. It's a lot of resources that could do a lot of good for us. But that hasn't happened. If anything, they annexed us. They rake in the profits from our soldiers, and we're stuck protecting them from the Legion. Not exactly the plan. Now we're trying to secure the strip and the dam at the same time, and it's costing us. And in the meantime, General Oliver won't approve any offensive maneuvers because he doesn't want to risk losing our positions. So we're in a holding pattern here. And Caesar's on the other side of the river, planning.
Losing its queen, the NCR has been weaker, more diffuse. Democracy has been its weakness, not its strength. Greed runs rampant. The government is corrupt, accepting bribes from Brahmin barons and landowners to the detriment of citizens. The NCR is a loose conglomerate of individuals looking out for themselves. It's lost virtue. No one cares about the collective, the greater good. It's not built to last. I'm just hastening the inevitable.
Not so with the Legion. Caesar is the indispensable man to his movement, and without him, the Legion would likely disband and devolve into infighting and chaos. On the surface, Caesar appears to be the least palatable faction leader. Between his sanctioning the sacking of towns and cities, mass enslavement, and horrifically violent public crucifixions, one would think that Caesar's coalition is merely held together by fear.
We get in position, and next thing we know, we're surrounded by those fucking Legion freaks. They dragged us and everybody else into the center of town. And that asshole with a dog on his head, he starts talking about how we're bad people. He said we needed to be punished for what we did. Not all of us, but some of them.
Nipton was a wicked place, debased and corrupt. It served all comers, so long as they paid. Profligate troops, powder gangers, men of the Legion, such as myself. The people here didn't care. It was a town of whores. For a pittance, the town agreed to lead those it had sheltered into a trap. Only when I sprang it did they realize they were caught inside it too. Yes, and herded them to the center of town. I told them their sins, the foremost being disloyalty.
Surely, nobody would willingly serve Caesar unless they were threatened into doing so. But this is not the case. When we talk to members of the Legion, they could not be more eager to fight and die for their master. Rather than feeling resentment, former tribesmen express gratitude that Caesar conquered and assimilated their tribes. Caesar commands unyielding loyalty from his subordinates and is worshipped like a living god.
When I was a boy, the Legion conquered my tribe. I was chosen for training as a legionary. I fought in many battles for the Legion. Eventually, Caesar chose me to lead his Praetorian Guard. It was a great honor. Girls and women were enslaved, and many of the men and boys were also chosen to become legionaries. The rest were killed. We were savages. The Legion raised us up, made us better than what we were.
Now, every tribe I've conquered has been so backwards and stunted. Enslavement has been a gift bestowed upon them. My conquest of the Mojave will be a glorious triumph.
Naturally, this leads to the question, how does a man so seemingly evil garner such loyalty? You've all come here seeking understanding, and today we embark on a journey into the psyche of one of the most dangerous, and dare I say captivating, figures in the wasteland, Caesar, or, as he was once known, Edward Sallow.
Ironically, I was born a profligate myself, a citizen of the NCR. My family lived not far from the Great Boneyard. After raiders killed my father, my mother sought the followers' protection. I was 2 years old. She found work at their library, cooking and cleaning. I learned how to read, and soon I was taking courses, free of charge. Oh yes, raised in that tradition. And the teaching stuck. I was taught it was my responsibility to bring the torch of knowledge to the waste. I may have taken the torch part more literally than they intended.
First, let's briefly look at Caesar's rise to power. Born Edward Sallow in the Boneyard of New California, Caesar was raised among the followers of the Apocalypse, an organization dedicated to the preservation of knowledge and the betterment of humanity. The followers' mission was noble, but their methods were naive. Charity and education in a world where power was dictated by the barrel of a gun. Young Edward absorbed their teachings, excelling in history, linguistics, and medicine. But these seeds of learning would germinate into something far more dangerous than the followers could have anticipated. In 2246, Sallow's intellectual curiosity led him eastward, accompanying a small follower expedition to study tribal societies in the wasteland beyond New California. The group stumbled into the territory of the Blackfoot tribe, a ragtag band of scavengers and raiders, perpetually on the brink of extinction. Captured and held as prisoners, the followers seemed doomed. But it was here, amidst the dirt and blood of the Blackfoot encampment, that Edward Sallow was reborn. Recognizing the tribe's desperation and disorganization, Sallow saw an opportunity. Armed with his knowledge of pre-war history and strategy, he seized control of the Blackfoot tribe. He taught them the art of war, logistics, discipline, and the power of a unified ideology. Within months, the Blackfoot had gone from a fractured band to a conquering force. Sallow's rise was meteoric, and he adopted a new name, Caesar, a title drawn from the ancient Roman Empire he so admired.
Divide et impera, divide and conquer. I led the Blackfoot against the Ridgers, their weakest enemy. When they refused to surrender, I ordered every man, woman, and child killed. When next we surrounded the Kaibabs, and they likewise refused, I took one of their envoys to the Ridgers' village and showed him the corpse piles.
Caesar's vision was grander than survival. He believed the chaotic tribes of the wasteland could be transformed into a single, cohesive civilization, one forged in the crucible of war and tempered by absolute authority. Drawing inspiration from Roman history, he constructed an empire that rejected the fractured individualism of the old world and democratic idealism of groups like the New California Republic. To Caesar, the NCR was a rotting corpse of pre-war decadence, an illusion of order masking internal weakness. His legion would be different, brutal, efficient, and eternal. The legion grew rapidly, absorbing or annihilating the tribes of Arizona, New Mexico, and beyond. Those who submitted were enslaved, their identities erased and remolded in the image of Caesar's vision. Those who resisted were crucified, their suffering a public spectacle to instill terror and obedience. Women were subjugated as property, and the legion's military hierarchy was absolute. To outsiders, this was savagery. To Caesar, it was salvation. He believed the old world's moralities had died with the Great War, and only through ruthless discipline could humanity rise again. Caesar's rise to power is a story of transformation, from a curious and idealistic scholar to a ruthless and uncompromising conqueror. It's the story of a man who rejected the chaos of the wasteland, not with compassion, but with an iron fist.
He killed 15 before they brought him down. He didn't die, obviously. I had him tended to. He was maimed, most of his face torn off. It was days before he regained consciousness. When he did, I went to his bedside and showed him the helmet I'd had forged to cover his face. I said he could have it if he'd fight for me. He accepted, on condition that he be allowed to kill the surviving males of his tribe. I said, make it the adult males, and you have a deal.
Now, Fallout New Vegas is not just a game. It's a social experiment. It is a brutal mirror to the ways in which power is constructed, how loyalty is manipulated, and how ideologies spread like fire across a parched desert. And Caesar? Well, Caesar is the embodiment of all of that. First, let's talk about the most powerful tool Caesar ever wielded: his mastery of history. You see, Caesar's ambition isn't just about domination. No, it's far more calculated than that. Caesar understood something that most in the wasteland never quite grasped. History is the ultimate weapon. History, you see, can be rewritten, manipulated, and weaponized. He presented himself not just as a leader of men, but as a restoration of Rome itself, an empire of greatness. What is it that people need more than food, water, or even safety? It's purpose, a narrative. Caesar didn't just create an army, he created a movement, a vision of a new world where his followers could be part of something greater than themselves. He offered a purpose, a cause, a reawakening of greatness, a return to the ancient glory of Rome. Think of how he speaks of the Roman Empire, to a people in the wasteland who have seen nothing but decay, violence, and chaos. Caesar's promise is an oasis in a desert of despair. He becomes more than a leader. He becomes the embodiment of destiny itself.
Terrorized autocracy that effectively integrated the foreign cultures it conquered. It dedicated its citizens to something higher than themselves, to the idea of Rome itself. In Rome, I found a template for a society equal to the challenges of the post-apocalyptic world, a society that could and would survive, a society that could prevent mankind from fracturing and destroying itself in this new world by establishing a new Pax Romana. It means a nationalist, imperialist, totalitarian, homogenous culture that obliterates the identity of every group it conquers.
But history alone wouldn't be enough. No, Caesar knew something crucial. Power is as much about perception as it is about force. Caesar built an image, one that blended both the mighty and the divine. His followers don't see him as a mere mortal. To them, Caesar is a god, or at the very least, the living embodiment of one. This isn't just about loyalty, it's about reverence. Consider how he operates. He's not some backroom schemer, whispering his orders from the shadows. No, he's a figurehead, a leader who commands not just respect, but fear. His very presence demands obedience. Even his appearance, the golden laurels, the Roman aesthetic, is a deliberate construction of power. It's a visual symbol of eternal domination. By elevating himself in this way, Caesar makes it clear, following him isn't just a choice, it's an act of divine duty. His followers don't merely serve him, they worship him. And this is where Caesar's genius lies. He turned the very idea of loyalty into a sacred bond. He created a devotion that transcended politics, turning it into something far more dangerous, a religious fervor.
All the pissant tribes with names that should be forgotten. I knew from the start I'd need to eradicate this plague of tribal identities, replacing them with a monolithic culture, a uniform identity. So that's what I did once my confederation of tribes was large enough. I crowned myself Caesar and created a single great tribe, my legion.
Now let's talk about discipline. The legion, as we know, is not built on kindness. It's built on fear, on suffering, and on absolute obedience. And this is where Caesar's strategy diverges from the leaders we usually see in history. Most rulers rely on bribes, rewards, or promises of safety to maintain control. Caesar, however, went the other way. He understood the most primal human instinct, fear. He uses it to craft an unbreakable loyalty. When you fear something, when you believe that defying it will lead to your utter destruction, you don't just follow it, it becomes your need. The Legion's brutal, unforgiving code ensures that any dissent is met with annihilation. To leave the Legion, to disobey, is to face a fate far worse than death itself. But, and this is key, Caesar's system of fear is not without a twisted sense of respect. It's not blind terror. No, Caesar's Legion operates on the principle of meritocracy, though a savage one. Those who are strong, who prove their worth, rise in the ranks. Loyalty to Caesar is not about weakness, it's about strength. And when you serve Caesar, you are made strong. You are made important. Your role in the empire is clear. There's no ambiguity about what your purpose is. And that clarity, that certainty, provides comfort to those who follow him.
Legionaries are lined up in ranks. Every 10th man steps forward and is beaten to death by his brothers. It instills a certain robust obedience. Yes, this time my legionaries will be more frightened of the commander behind them than the enemy before them.
But we can't talk about loyalty without recognizing the bonds of brotherhood Caesar has forged within his ranks. The Legion, for all its brutality, is not simply a collection of men and women who follow orders. They are family. They share in the same ideals, the same code, the same unyielding belief that they are part of something greater than themselves. Caesar understood that human beings are social creatures. We crave connection, we crave belonging. So he created a culture within the Legion that made every soldier feel integral to the whole. To be a member of the Legion is to be part of an unbreakable brotherhood, one that transcends any relationship you might have with your biological family. In a world as fragmented as the Wasteland, this sense of belonging is intoxicating.
Where to begin? That they are weak and we are strong? This much was known already.
And then, there is the simple fact that the Wasteland is chaos. It's a world where the strong thrive and the weak perish. In such a world, people naturally gravitate towards any force that offers them order, security, and structure. Caesar's Legion isn't just an army, it's a living, breathing symbol of stability. Where other factions offer nothing but more violence or empty promises, Caesar offers the structure of civilization, the idea that through discipline, strength, and unwavering loyalty, the wasteland can be rebuilt. His promise isn't to restore what was, but to create something new, something better. In a world where everything seems lost, Caesar offers his followers a chance to build something lasting, to create a legacy that will live on long after they are gone. This vision is seductive. It calls to the deepest, most desperate parts of the human heart.
Expansion has never ceased. Much of the Utah and Colorado and all of Arizona and New Mexico are mine. We have cities of our own, but nothing compared to Vegas. Finally, my Legion will have its Rome.
So in the end, we must understand that Caesar's loyalty isn't born from weakness or desperation. It is forged from a combination of power, fear, reverence, and most critically, purpose. He has created an identity, an ideology, and a vision of the future that his followers can cling to. Loyalty to Caesar isn't a simple bond. It's a transformation. It's the acceptance of a new way of life, a new understanding of who they are and what they can become. In a world like the Mojave, loyalty is no longer just a matter of trust. It's a matter of survival. Caesar understands this, and that is why, even after all these years, his empire endures. His followers don't just serve him, they die for him, and they do so because they believe they are part of something greater than themselves. And that, my friends, is the dangerous power of Caesar. To understand the tools of his domination is not to condone the movement that he has built, but it does reveal something about the human psyche and how power is constructed. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Drop a comment if there are any topics you would like to see me cover in future videos.